Welcome to Power of the Tribe podcast. I'm your host, John Connors, and I'm also the founder and head instructor of Connors Martial Arts. I'm black belt in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, and I'm here with my partner, Dan Robin. How you doing, Dan?
I'm good.
Dan, today we're going to talk about why we don't need stripes in BJJ. I'm getting rid of them. I'm burning all my stripe tape, throwing it out.
No stripes.
What do you think? Am I going overboard? Is this too harsh?
Well, I'm a little thrown off by you saying you're my partner.
What did I say? Co-host? What I said, partner?
You said partner
I said
today.
partner.
Usually
Shoot. Yeah, co-host. Yeah, let's be clear. It's completely platonic relationship.
Yes,
yeah.
it's a co-host. I think.
But you're kind of a partner. What do you think, Dimitri? What do you think?
You're a partner in the show?
Yeah. Co-host?
Right.
Yeah.
I know. Dimitri didn't seem to like it at some point.
Oh.
He had like a little. He didn't like you calling me partner.
I should call you host. Actually, calling you co-host is like you're vice president. I'm host. You're co-host. I don't know.
That's true.
No. It's a little bit of a slight. I thought you might be taking that as an insult.
It's fine. But the big thing.
Yeah.
All the jiu-jitsu people listening.
Yeah.
Are thinking, what's this? What's this? No stripes.
No stripes.
I like my stripes, is what they're thinking. They're going, John, what do you mean?
You're crazy.
Think of how many people out there listening. Probably, what percent of people listening have stripes right now?
That do jiu-jitsu?
On their belt.
A lot of them. Yeah.
Almost every listener.
Almost everyone.
So 90% of people listening have stripes. You have stripes.
I have stripes. Maybe I'm taking it too far, but I do see, I belong to different jiu-jitsu groups on Facebook, and you'll often see a picture like a white belt with the first stripe on it, and they're all excited. I got my first stripe. Yeah.
But that's positive, right?
It's positive. It is. You're right. But I just get the feeling like, aren't we adults here? Do we have to give everyone a cookie for every little thing that they do? Doesn't it smack sometimes of like participation trophy culture where we're just going to make sure everyone gets something?
Absolutely. I have two answers.
Okay.
One is absolutely, I completely feel that way.
Yeah.
I completely get it. The question is, how many jiu-jitsu participants, people that start jiu-jitsu, have that sort of strength of character? And I don't want to say strength of character, but like I have a personality where I'm like, I don't need a stripe. I think you have a personality that you don't need a stripe. Does that apply to other people?
Okay, here's what I think, Dan. I think you're right. I think if we can focus the students on recognizing their development, that's way more effective than a stripe and way more important. So I think a person generally will quit doing something if they don't see progress. Jiu-jitsu requires a lot of hard work, and they're working hard. So if you don't feel like you're making progress, that's going to start to make you question, is this worth the effort? Why am I doing all this work?
I wonder if that happens to anybody. Does that happen?
So, yeah, the joke is that's what happened to you. You felt like you had plateaued for a while.
This is an important point, I think.
Yeah.
Really. Not joking. Because I think I always heard through jiu-jitsu that there's plateaus. I'm not an idiot. Like, I heard that all the time.
Okay.
But what you hear is, I feel like I haven't gotten better in 3 weeks. And I haven't gotten better in a month.
Right.
And I reached a point where I was like, I'm not getting better in years. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, and whether it's, so the argument is.
That's your perception.
Right.
Yep.
My perception. So I understand that people would say that's just your perception. But what would happen is people would say, that's your perception. You're not seeing that you're better. And I'd feel like, yeah, but I'm still not seeing it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm not.
That's a great point. That's
what I mean?
That's a distinction. So I used to do the parable of the sailboats on the river, where you're in a sailboat and you're going down the river, and there's other sailboats, and if the other ones are making more progress than you, you actually feel like you're going backwards. But if you looked at the shoreline, you could see, oh, I'm actually making progress. So the analogy is, as a student, if you're looking at other students who are making faster progress than you, you may feel like you're falling behind, or you may feel like you're plateaued, but you might not be getting the real take on things.
Right. Which is a great point, But I used to always argue, I was like, I see the same tree, like on the
Right.
shore.
Right.
I'd be like, I think I can look back and see the dock.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know. I don't care what the other sailboats are doing.
But actually,
like,
there's another point that you're making here is like, oh, that analogy is great, John, but I can't see my progress.
Yeah.
So I'm looking over the shore and I don't see my progress. And you're telling me it's there, but I don't see it. And if I don't see it, it's really not that worthwhile. It's not motivating unless I see my progress.
right.
And I think that's a crucial point, Dan. So I'm trying to educate our students now to give them the responsibility to recognize their own progress. Like I don't want them looking to an instructor, like Oliver Twist. More, please. Like another stripe, sir. And like looking for that validation from an instructor. If they can look at their techniques and their technical development from one class to the next, from 1 week to the next, then that is going to serve them. That's going to keep them motivated. They're going to see
Right.
their own development.
So if you don't get a stripe, you're still like, I know I'm better.
I know I'm better. I
Because
know
for me,
tangible things
Here's
that I'm better.
another
Uh-huh.
good example is the reverse, where I would get a stripe or even a belt, and I'd be like, I don't know why you're giving this to me, because I don't see it. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, so it's the revert. See the flip. You know what I mean? The flip side of
Totally.
that, where I'm like, you're giving me a stripe, but I don't know why, or
Yeah.
like you almost feel awkward because you're like, well, you're giving this to me, and I don't think I deserve it.
I totally agree. And you can paint somebody into a difficult corner that way. Or, I had arguments with some of our instructors in the past where they're giving some student, let's say he's a white belt and he's got 4 stripes and he's not that good and he's not near a blue belt. So it's like he's another 18 months away from developing into a blue. What are we going to do now? Now the guy's going to sit there. He's gotten stripe after stripe after stripe. And now he's not a blue belt. We can't
Right.
give him a blue belt. So what are we going to do with this guy now? Now he's going to like not get any stripes or promotion for an extended period of time and start going, what's going on here? I was getting these
Now,
regular
it'd be like
promotions.
something went wrong with my development, but really nothing went wrong with their development.
What went wrong was the instructor promoting them too quickly, over promoting them. And I've noticed sometimes instructors get a kick out of that, giving somebody a stripe. There's some kind of exchange of energy there where the person's grateful to them and they feel good about that. And it's almost like they're the king bestowing a gift upon the subject. And
I
it's
think
not
even
good.
more common is the opposite, right? Like someone getting something and going, "Why do I deserve this?" And there's that tension. And actually, there's tons of tension. I'm also picturing people that are very, very good and didn't get the stripe. I've seen this many times, like students that are like, "Why didn't I get a stripe?" And basically, I tend to know the instructors, and since just because I'm old, been around a while. And usually the instructors are like, oh, I don't know, I'll give him a stripe. You know what I mean? It's like, you know what I mean? The
Yeah.
students like beating themselves up, like lying awake at night, like, why don't I have my 3rd stripe?
Right.
And meanwhile, the instructors are like, oh, does he not? What belt is he? Do you know what I mean? They're like, is he
Yeah.
blue or purple? I don't even,
Yeah.
like, so the student is overthinking. Like,
Well,
why
that's
didn't I get a stripe? And the instructor's like, we're not paying attention to this at all. Like,
Well, that's the problem with these devices like stripes and belts. In my mind, the purpose of belts and stripes they're a tool to help the student develop. That's it, really. That's the primary focus of them, the primary purpose. There's some places, some martial art, maybe even jiu-jitsu, where you get promoted by number of classes attended. Like you attend a certain number, and then you get a stripe, and so forth. And we don't do that with our adults, we've never done that.
and
But-
the sport's been not big on that as well. Like the sport's been more, jiu-jitsu as a whole does not award belts in the same manner as some other sports, like some other martial sports, like
Maybe.
karate. Like,
Yeah. But Dan, we started to do that in our kids program back when we had our kids program developing. So years ago, we said, let's try just number of classes in. And there was a really negative side effect from it that you might not expect right off the bat. You know what happened, Dan? I found myself less interested in the students' development. Because it's like, well, they just put in the classes in. We just check off that box.
Right.
And then we would kind of sleepwalk through class. It wasn't the same. And I'm like, we got to stop this immediately. And then we went back on giving them stripes based on their development. And then I was back locked in that, like trying to get these kids to develop, you know? So, like those tools, if you focus on the tool too much, the tail can start wagging the dog, and you get some unintended consequences that are not helpful at all.
Right. So I have two different thoughts, but one. So one is, it's a balancing act for an instructor, right? Because you have to. What the idea is, you want to reward people for the amount they've improved in jiu-jitsu. So you're walking this thing where there's very strong, amazing athletes that have a knack for this.
Right.
That you're like, the day you walked in, you can maybe beat a purple belt.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
definitely.
and you're like, I don't
We
want
got
to
a white belt that training with us right now. It's just like that. He's white belt, and man, he's just such a superb athlete and so smart and picking up everything so quickly.
Right. So do you want to say, here, you have a purple belt? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and
I want that guy to compete once, because I'm sure he's going to clean house in the white belt division, and then I can give him a blue belt.
Right.
You know, yeah.
And then on the other hand, you also want to, there's people, I'm sure in the gym where you're like, you're never, picture someone's 80 years old. You're like, you're never going to be able to actually beat the purple belts. Like,
Great question. Yeah.
And you're like, but I want to reward you. You're learning jiu-jitsu. You're getting better.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's this combination, right, of like, where are you legitimately versus what have you earned? And I feel like that's, as an instructor, you have to figure out how to deal with that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think you're right.
And I think people like to maybe say in jiu-jitsu, it's all one part. It's all, how good are you? Can you tap all those belts?
Well, Dan,
but what if you're 80 years old? What if you're, you know what I mean, the
Yeah.
one woman in the gym and you can't tap the guys because they're much bigger and stronger than you? Like, it's not that simple to just say, I'm only giving it to those who can tap. I remember a long time ago, I might have brought this up on here, was Kenny Florian was saying, who's a very good jiu-jitsu competitor, black belt from a long time ago, if anyone doesn't know that. He said maybe an offensive lineman from the Patriots, you know, weighs 330 pounds, would come in right now and give me a very hard time weighing 170 pounds. Like, it would be very difficult to deal with him.
Yeah.
Is he a black belt? Do you know what I mean? Like, do you just say, oh, you're a black belt? Like,
Oh,
he's
no.
not,
Yeah,
right? That's
yeah,
what I'm saying. Like,
yeah.
so it's not, for those people who are like, jiu-jitsu should just be who can tap who, it's not that simple. You know, you're not just.
No, but you don't want to get too far away from effectiveness, really. But, Dan, here's where the sport comes in and really helps us a lot. So if people go and compete and do well in their age bracket and their weight division and so forth, that gives us the information we're looking for. You know, so if somebody's 80 and they enter a tournament with some other 80-year-olds and they beat everybody, then they, you know, get a promotion, or that gives you information as to what their level is, you know?
Yeah.
And it's not a perfect system,
It's a
obviously.
little bit
but-
harsh because the top, I don't know what, 20% of people are the ones who want to go compete in a tournament. Right? Like, do you know what I mean?
Well, that's
like,
another subject, Dan. I think everybody should compete. I'm really going to push everyone at our academy to compete because there's so many benefits from it, and there's no downside. There's literally no downside at all. So everybody should be competing. If you compete, it just adds focus and urgency to your training and purpose to what you're doing, excitement. There's the potential for glory. It's maybe a little relatively, banal glory, but it's something. I mean, it's pretty cool. Go win a tournament or whatever, get some medal, whatever it is, come in third place, even a second place. This can be very exciting, and that can stimulate your nervous system enough to get you to do the work. So, I mean, that's pretty cool. So that's definitely something that we're going to be encouraging people to do.
So what do you think of the downside is you get smashed and you feel
I think
bad.
there's no so you feel bad?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm asking you to address it. Like, what do you think of that you get smashed? What is the downside is what I'm saying. Like, the
I don't
worst
think there
case
is any.
scenario is people beat you and you lost all your
You
matches.
lost. So then how did we lose? Where did we lose? And then that'll be the focus of your development. Like, well, they passed my guard right here from half guards. All right, let's just work on that now and patch that hole up. And it gives you a roadmap to develop. That's one of the problems with jiu-jitsu is there's unlimited techniques. You could be studying anything in any given day, but you need to give yourself some
You're saying
parameters.
competing, you're like, why exactly did I lose. You
Yeah.
can really see it. Like,
Yeah.
it's not hypothetical. Where
Right.
am I? You're not guessing why am I weak or where
Yeah.
am I weak or where am I strong. It's like, this actually failed me.
Yeah. I got guillotined, so let's become really good at defending the guillotine.
Right.
And I think the key is to keep competing. It shouldn't be a one-off thing. You know, I mean, that puts too much pressure on it. But if it's part of the regular culture, this is what we do. I mean, there's no downside to it, and you're getting, you know, you're getting outside confirmation about what you're doing and what your level is. There's so many. The other benefit, Dan, is the enemy is outside the academy if I'm competing all the time. If I never compete, the enemy starts to become one of my training partners. There's somebody who's your nemesis in the academy. And that's not good to have that kind of, you know, maybe latent hostility or passive aggressiveness, unspoken animosity.
It's
you
interesting.
know?
Does that happen? Like, I never felt that, but I could absolutely imagine that happens a lot of people that feel like they're measuring themselves against someone else in the academy. Like, how do I do against
Definitely.
this person?
Definitely. Yeah.
Like someone who started roughly the same time or roughly the same size or whatever
Definitely.
it is.
Yeah. And that's just natural, you know?
Yeah.
But to get back to the stripes, so when we
Can I
Yeah.
say one quick
Yeah.
thing? Like, so you don't even know this about me. Like,
all right,
on
I'm a little scared.
no episode 2, this is my martial arts past.
Okay.
So episode like a million years ago on this podcast, which of course all the listeners have, I assume, listen to every episode, which I think is critical.
I think you got to listen to every episode at least once.
Yes,
Yeah.
at least once.
Yeah, definitely.
To really get it. It's like those it's like the best movies. Like, you get something new
Right.
each time you listen,
It's like the Big Lebowski. I'm 100 views in, and it's
and
getting
you're
better.
picking something else up.
Definitely.
This is the thing, because a lot of this podcast is nuance.
Right.
You're just not going to pick it up. You should pause a lot.
You-
I think also pause and take notes and think, and then restart the podcast.
When you hear Brother Seamus and he says an Irish monk, like, you're not going to get that the first time you hear it, right? It takes a
Right.
while. Yeah.
Right. So when I started, as I said before, I won't go back through my
right.
history, but I basically took karate. Like, my daughter was taking karate, and I was
right.
like, "Oh, what's all this karate about?" And started karate. I didn't want to take karate, but the karate instructor said, "I can teach you Brazilian jiu-jitsu," and I already knew the UFC. I knew Royce Gracie. I said, "Oh, okay, that sounds like what I want to learn." Like, my head was sort of vaguely in the right place.
Did he say, I can teach you how to tackle and grapple?
He just said, yeah, I thought he could get me to Royce's level. He said, "Oh yeah, if you want to take privates in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I can do it." And I was like, "Sounds good." He said, in fact, he said, "Your daughter will be in class. Picture the perfect setup. Your daughter will be taking karate, and I will give you a private lesson in Brazilian
it's
Jiu-Jitsu."
convenient.
I was
Yeah.
like, perfect. And, so he taught me different like in again, great guy. So I don't want to, this is not me ripping on this guy. Right.
Yeah.
Like,
Can we just say, well-meaning guy?
yes,
Not great.
he was
Muhammad Ali was great. He's
very
not
nice.
great.
Well, very nice guy.
Okay. Very nice guy. I like that.
And very nice guy, and also not misleading me.
Okay.
Like, he thought he could teach me. He had
Okay.
learned some jiu-jitsu, and he would
All
thought
right.
he'd teach me these moves.
Okay.
In retrospect, he did not know jiu-jitsu. He was
Yeah.
a white belt that had learned a few moves.
Right.
So the thing I didn't tell anyone was I would learn like 2 or 3 sweeps or something, and he'd give me a belt in jiu-jitsu. So
What kind of belt?
like a blue belt.
Was he giving you? Was he using the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu system of belting,
Yes.
or was he using his own system?
The Brazilian
So, what
jiu-jitsu
level did you attain with this guy?
purple belt.
After what, 3 lessons or something?
Maybe half a dozen. That said, I could also beat the other karate guy in the gym, like, but it was just physical. Like, I could just like throw them down.
But, Dan, did he give you any stripes?
He did not. But I think I was close to brown belt. I think I was getting close. And that's so if you heard the story, which probably See,
Wait a minute.
you didn't know I was a purple belt in jiu-jitsu back in like 2000
Did
something.
not know that. Huh. Well, I sensed you had a little experience going on.
I had that swagger.
Now, what entitled this guy to give you a purple belt in Brazilian
again-
Jiu-Jitsu? Did he imagine that he was a black belt in Jiu-Jitsu?
No, but
No.
he was a black belt in his own thing.
In karate.
And yeah.
So it was like a
Again,
cross.
I think so. Again, I'm not
species
trying
promotion.
to attack the guy because I think he didn't know. You know what I mean? I think it just wasn't.
But that's crazy, Dan.
So luckily, so that after that, like I still felt like I was like, okay, I can like beat these people that are like I'm just basically though I'm just grabbing them, throwing them down, and like I'm just physically.
I think you
beating them?
categorized most of these guys as being below average in ruggedness, physical ruggedness.
Yeah, or maybe
Average?
average, like
Okay.
below jiu-jitsu gym average. Do you know what I
Okay.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
and well, probably above average for the world, right? Like they're in a gym.
Oh, right.
And like maybe one guy would be like 22, and so me and him would just smash
Right.
and roll and flail around,
Flail.
you know, like. But again, I'm not an idiot, right? So I was sort of like, I don't feel like I feel like there has to be a level of skill that I don't have.
Yeah.
And then two things from there happened. One was, as an aside, is when I went to the boxing gym and was just getting really
Concussions
actually
on the
hurt.
regular, yeah.
Actually hurt.
Yeah.
But that wasn't the jiu-jitsu part of it as much. So
Yeah.
the jiu-jitsu part of it, I'll say, I contacted through like an online ad, and I literally had no idea. And everyone listening, maybe, and both of us, you forget what it's like to not know about this at all.
Oh, right.
You know, to
Yeah.
just not know at all what you're doing.
Yeah.
And maybe even for you who wrestled, you always sort of knew, but if you,
Right.
you know, what meant to be effective.
I remember watching Royce do his thing, and then I found the time and opened up a Yellow Pages and looked for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I went into a place, but I didn't know what to expect. And they could have probably showed me anything in the beginning, and I would have
Right.
just went along
Well,
with it. Yeah.
to that point, even as I was searching around, that's when I found small circle jiu-jitsu. Like
right.
I was sort of looking around, like I was like, I don't know.
Were you sniffing like this doesn't seem to be
It's
the
not-
real deal?
Yeah, I can't quite. Yeah, I was like, I want to feel like if someone untrained fights me, I'll
You can
destroy
handle
them.
them. Yeah.
Like and it wasn't working. It wasn't working that way.
Yeah.
And I felt, and I was sniffing everyone around me, and I was like, I think none of you can do anything.
Mm.
And then, like I said, there would be karate, like 9th degree black belts that would come in for a seminar, and I'd be like, I think I could be, like, I don't think you could beat me in a fight. Like if we were
One good poke in the chest with my finger.
like I just think
Yeah.
I'd run at you and I'd just tackle you, and you'd be, you know what I mean? Like I just
Then you
think-
had that other young black belt who was getting his arm twisted behind his back by a young
yeah,
lady
yeah.
at high school.
Yeah. Yeah, he was a black belt in the gym that I was
Yeah.
at, and he was a black belt, so he was instructing. And
He was an
saying-
instructor. Yeah.
He said, "Sensei," like to the main instructor, like, "I have a question. What do you do if you're?" So I had I was in an altercation, and someone twisted my arm, and I didn't know how to get out of it, and the sensei was like, "So what happened?" And that's when he said, "Well, she grabbed me." And we were all like, "Sorry, she?" And it was it was in high school, and a high school girl
Throttled this
twisted his arm.
black belt.
and-
Yeah.
There was a bunch of things like that. Like
Yeah.
I said, the 9th degree
That's
black.
a little clue.
Yeah, and then, the 9th degree black belt was the one who was like, he was the one who was like, I stop my kicks when I feel testicle.
That's it.
You know, like
You know
when
what?
my toe feels testicle, I
Right.
stop the foot. That's the control I have. And I was like, and everyone looked like this. I was like the one in the cult, like looking around the room, like, is anyone else laughing? Like, what is happening here? Like, so I knew I was in the wrong place.
Yeah.
And also I know, like, for me, the wrong place was like, we're going to do nunchucks and throwing stars. And I'm like, am I going to throwing star someone in the forehead? Like, I don't really see that.
I could see you, Dan, getting a road rage and then pull over, whip a star at the guy's head.
By the way, that would be awesome. By the way, that would be, awesome.
Go away for manslaughter or murder or something. Yeah, crazy.
I'm going to say worth it. I'm going to say worth it. I'll do a manslaughter to throwing star someone in the forehead. That would be incredible. I mean, you have to admit.
Yeah.
But so I found Steve Whittier,
Oh, right.
our mutual friend, who's awesome martial artist, and I came in and I still had that, like, I can just sort of, and again, I'm just somewhat fit, but I felt like in this karate thing, I was like, I can just overpower people
Okay.
physically
Yep.
and just beat them. And then with Steve, I sort of felt like, is it okay? And so, of course, most of those people didn't ever let you do that. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was sort of like karate sparring was like, don't go too hard. And even a lot of my so-called jiu-jitsu training was like, don't go too hard. And Steve was like, go as hard as you want, as everyone listening knows is part of jiu-jitsu. And I was like, really? He was like, yeah. And I was like, but can I try to Kimura you? And he was like, you can do whatever you want. And by the way, I still hear that. I don't know, like, for the new guys at the gym, will still be like, what should I do? Like, their first couple sparring sessions are like, what am I allowed to do? And they're almost like surprised when you're like, you can do whatever you want. Like, go. Like,
You can do whatever you want.
Yeah, well, I mean, they'll stick a finger in my eye, but other than that,
I pretty much give the general instruction: do not injure your training partner. You know.
yeah, just don't do something obnoxious, but just try as hard as you can. Try to strangle me or twist anything off you want. Like, and so I launched into Steve, and as anyone who now, like most listeners, understand jiu-jitsu, it was very effortless for him to just like abuse me. You know, like it's just like I was just like terribly. And again, I was younger and like full of that energy and just like flailing. And
then
like
the light bulb went on, and you said,
like, I was like, wait a minute, this guy could kick the crap out of me. Like, do you know what I mean? I was like, I hadn't run into that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I ran into it again at the boxing gym.
Right.
But also but even the boxing gym, maybe you're like, maybe I can tackle this guy. And like,
oh, right.
do you know what I mean? Like the jiu-jitsu, you're like, wait, there's nothing I could do. Do you know what I mean? Like there's nothing I could do. Like I was saying, there's one point I remember my first real sparring ever where Steve was sitting on my chest and he put his feet up on either side of my head.
Oh yeah, that's
like not
pretty humiliating.
Yeah,
way to
and just
mount
and I'm like again young and all that, and I'm trying to thrash him off, and I'm like, I can't get out, and he starts talking to me, like in that situation, while hovered over me, and it's very clear to me, I'm like, he could be punching me this whole time, like. And
did he take your hand and start hitting you in the face with it and
But
say,
I
"Why are
think-
you hitting yourself, Dan? Why are you hitting
I
yourself?"
think there's an important point here, though, which is that's what I love about jiu-jitsu and the people in jiu-jitsu and MMA gyms, which is that filter. Because that experience, I don't think anyone can come into a good gym and not have some realization like, wait, people here can beat me up, right? Like,
yeah.
and I think there are many people that have that experience and are like, I'm never coming back again. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, someone, that was horrible, and I can't deal with it with my ego, and I'm leaving.
Oh, right.
And I think the people that really get into jiu-jitsu or MMA or whatever else are the people that are like, wait, that's it. That's what I wanted. Like, that is a skill that he could really, really destroy me.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to learn.
I think so.
Like, it's not fantasy. It's not how do I do something with the bow staff. It's
some people have that mindset where, oh, how do I let that never happen to me again?
Yeah.
How do I learn how to prevent this? Somebody just holding me down and keeping me there at their will.
Well, one way is to leave the gym and never go back.
Actually, that's the most effective way, most efficient way.
That'll do it, right? For most people.
Yeah.
But if you want to learn to actually stop it yourself, that should appeal to you. But anyway, thank God I didn't tell Steve I was a purple belt. Like, there was a point where he was like, so what? Do you have jiu-jitsu training? And I was like, I didn't know what to say. Like, looking back, it was to us and to most listeners, it's obvious that I should have said I know nothing. Yeah. But when you know nothing, you don't know. Like, right. I could have possibly said, well, I have a purple belt. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then he would have quickly been like, you don't.
Right. Right.
Luckily, I didn't. But I wasn't positive to say that.
Right.
Now it's obvious, but at the time it wasn't obvious. And I just said, nah, I think I'm a white belt, I guess.
Yeah, I think you're illustrating my idea here that if you focus on the belts and not your development, it becomes lunacy pretty quickly, right?
Right.
Um,
So you're saying all this whole idea of which stripe are you, like,
See, here's
again,
what I think.
change the
I don't want to go off
change the whole mindset.
I don't want to get too deep, but I believe all humans are obsessed with social status, unconsciously or consciously. But most people, it's unconscious to them, and they can't help if there's a scoreboard around your waist, they can't help but looking and comparing their score to your score. You know, and it's a big distraction. So it's not that healthy. You know. Because you really want to develop, so you have to focus on your development. I think, man, we've been teaching some great classes lately, and I just see people developing before my eyes. And I come to training, Dan, and I'm obsessed with the students developing. And I'm like, what can we do to help them develop? Just like a maniac. And it's the only effective approach. It's really the way to go. And if the students themselves come in, how can I develop my game today? What can I do to develop? They're going to really develop effectively. And if they don't come in with that attitude, you can just slide off into the abyss before you know it. You can be thinking about these status games. You know, there's a lot of different ways to climb the ladder, you know, in the business and political world, right? You don't have to be effective. You don't have to be good. You know, you can find other ways to climb a social status ladder. But it's not healthy, and it's a colossal waste of time. It's a disaster. But if you focus on your development, guess what? You end up developing. And sooner or later, not only do you feel great about yourself because you see yourself developing, you see yourself sticking to something and really developing, sooner or later, the accolades, the esteem from outside has to come because you're just that goddamn good. So sooner or later, you're going to get that purple belt because you're just better than all the blue belts and you're better than half of the purple belts or whatever the hell it is. It just becomes manifest. It's just obvious.
And this is what draws me to jiu-jitsu, and probably I think most people that do it, I think some version of this where it's like there's like a reckoning to it, like so in business
It's an honesty to it,
we've
yeah.
all seen it where there's people that get very, very high in business and you're like, this person's an idiot. Like it's not that clear, right? Like, because things can break your way.
You can get lucky.
Yeah. Or there's a million ways to like either know someone or like things
right.
just went well, or you present yourself well, or you're
Right.
like, you know, we always say in business, there's this thing, if you're like tall, nice head of hair, and maybe have an English accent, you're going to be a manager.
You're
like,
way
you know
ahead.
Like, you're just like, so, and you also see tons of people that have succeeded in business and they're high level, but they're insecure. They know they're not that smart. They know, they know they shouldn't be there.
Right.
Like, and there's tons of that in the world, at politics, everywhere. What I like,
Politics is
it's
almost
even the
exclusively
worst.
that.
Yeah. So, jiu-jitsu is maybe the only place I can think of, other than related sports, where that's, or sports in general, where that's eradicated. Where it's like, can you do it or not? You can't like
I see what you're
bluff
saying,
and
Dan.
pose your way to like I'm a bluffed posing black belt that can't do it.
I
'cause you'll just
disagree
get tapped.
somewhat, Dan. I think you can fall into that track a little bit, and it's very dangerous. And then what happens when you don't really have the goods? Then people just start protecting themselves and isolating themselves, and they don't roll with people, and they start creating these other strategies. So they strategize to protect their status instead of strategizing to develop themselves. That's the whole problem that I'm talking about.
So someone's a black belt and they know there's purple belts that can tap them, so they just avoid them.
Completely, yeah.
And then it becomes unhealthy, and the opposite of what I'm saying, where you're like, it's sort of like the person who's successful in business, but it actually is eating away at them because they're like at home, they can't sleep because they know they don't deserve that spot. And suddenly you're like, your jiu-jitsu itself starts eating away at you and becoming a source of unhappiness because you're like, I know I'm going to lose to these people. Your
self-esteem suffers because your inner audience knows. It sees right through you. You can't.
Your inner audience is booing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess that's what I'm saying. You know, I bring up Dr. Doug Lisle a lot and his podcast, Beat Your Genes. He's got a website called esteemdynamics.org, I think. And he has just a great model for esteem and self-esteem. And it's really worth looking at and understanding. And what I'm saying is, based on his models, if you can focus more on self-esteem, and what I mean by self-esteem, I don't mean just looking in the mirror every morning and saying, I'm wonderful and beautiful and loved. No, it's actually...
Not that we're against that.
I'm saying your self-esteem wants to see you work hard and work diligently. So if you go in and try to develop yourself and you work hard to develop yourself, your self-esteem is going to be proud of you. And if you can see your development, you're going to feel proud. You're going to feel good about yourself. And that, nobody else can take that away from you. You know, what your instructor gives you, the belts or the stripes or the compliments or the accolades somebody else is giving you, that's contingent on them. That could go away at any minute. But your self-esteem, you're in control of that, you know, by your effort and your diligence and your conscientiousness.
Right. So this is a or the central point of what you're trying to say, right?
I think
that
so.
You're like, this approach to jiu-jitsu is a way of taking away the control of your self-esteem from other people.
Yeah.
Right. Is that
Well,
what
that
you're
would
like?
be esteem, but so your self-esteem, the way Dr. Lyle's model is, self-esteem is you have this inner audience that's looking at you and judging you and assessing, you know, how much effort you're putting in.
You don't want that to
how
rely
diligent.
on what other people say to you.
And then there's
Yeah.
esteem from other people, what other people are saying to you and giving to you. And then he also talks about pseudo-esteem is when you're just getting likes on social media from people you don't even know. They're like, yeah, you're terrific. They don't even know me. How do they know I'm terrific? So I'm saying focus on the self-esteem part is the best place to come from. And then, Dan, if we're talking about esteem from others, maybe limit that to a trusted group of people, you know, somebody who really knows you and shares your values and understands what you're trying to accomplish. You know what I mean? Not somebody who's just going to be throwing compliments or insults at you or whatever, you know. And you want somebody, you want to earn the opinion, the highest, you want to earn esteem from somebody who's worth earning esteem from, right? Not some knucklehead. So, but the self-esteem part is really completely self-contained. And if you can focus on that, you're just going to be in a strong position. And also, and the other part of that is, you know, recognize your own development. Take responsibility for your own development. Don't leave it up to in the instructor's hands, you know. And this is, it's kind of a simple road, but it's sort of a hard road too, Dan. It takes some discipline.
Yeah.
It takes effort. And I noticed there are people out there who don't want to do this. They don't want to take responsibility for their own self-esteem or for their
A lot
own
of people, I
development.
think.
They're looking for a charismatic leader so they don't have to think. Just
Almost everybody.
tell me what to do. Yeah. Yeah, they're looking for the tall guy with the good head of hair and the English accent. What should I do, sir? Yeah, okay, I'll do it. And instead of thinking for themselves and taking responsibility for their own development. But I think that's human nature, right?
Right.
There's a certain percentage of people, you know, if they were in a sort of catastrophic position, you know, you got about 50 people in a plane crash and they're on the side of a mountain, a lot of people are going to, what the hell should we do? And if the tall guy with the English accent says, with conviction, we have to go up this mountain. That's the only way to safety. And then you get another person who's like, I'm not sure exactly what we should do. We probably shouldn't go up the mountain because it's colder. It's going to get us above the tree line. We either should stay here or maybe we should start heading down the mountain. That person isn't as compelling, you know. So he's telling people, let's think about this. And they're like, think about it. I'm an idiot. How can I think about it? I'm just going to follow the tall guy. He seems totally convinced of what he wants to do.
And then maybe even harder is to be like, all right, you're all going up the mountain, but I'm not going.
Oh,
like
right.
You know, like
Yeah.
I'm going down the mountain.
Yeah.
'Cause you know, I'm not following that guy.
Yeah.
And so just to make it clear, bringing it back, this is all of a piece. It's clear to me.
Yeah.
But to the point you were making about stripes
Yeah.
in the belt. If I have it right, it's that stripes is a way of putting your self-esteem in the hands of the instructor.
A little
Is that
bit.
what you're
It
saying?
can be. Yeah. Or, yeah. Yeah. Not taking responsibility for your self-esteem and for your development. I mean, it's always great to get recognized by somebody, especially somebody you respect. But it's better to develop. Like, say you're in the business world, Dan, and you weren't getting that recognition from your management or whatever. You weren't getting the so-called stripes out there in the real world, just because that happens sometimes. But if you were developing yourself, you were adding new skills. Like, oh, now I can program. I can use this code I couldn't before. You develop yourself. Guess what? If that company isn't giving you the proper recognition, some other company will, because you've developed yourself. But if you don't develop yourself and you sit there and I want the boss to like me. I want him to give me a compliment. What do I need to do, boss? That's not a good place to be operating from. Because that boss who's not giving you the recognition you deserve, they're obviously some disagreeable maniac anyways. And why would you want to put yourself in the hands of a disagreeable maniac, you know?
And maybe this is obvious, but every other sport doesn't have belts, right? They're like, you compete and you just sort of improve yourself, and
yeah,
you get and
in many ways the whole belt system is
it comes from martial arts, where it was like I weirdly hadn't thought of it exactly this way, but it was like it came from where there were no tournaments, right? So it was like,
oh, maybe
right,
yeah.
like there's no way to know, right? Like it's
right.
we're teaching you to fight,
right?
So there's no, like, every other thing is like, if you're tennis, you're like, I can go to my club and I can get in some kind of tournament.
Yeah,
right?
I can get a ranking by my competition.
You can be bowling and be like, I'm in the bowling league.
Right.
Did we win? Martial arts was like, I'm teaching you to fight. You know, like, there's no.
Well, I think it's all. Yeah, I think it's.
So it
could
like,
be a device to retain people in the group.
Right.
So in that way, it's almost like a cult-like tool, a tool a cult would use. You know what I mean? Like, so you're going to get to the next level, Dan, and finally you're going to go clear, right? You're going to.
I think I still like it as a nice gesture in a way. Like, doing it, it's like, hey, you deserve this.
Right.
Here you go. And like, it's nice. You know what I mean? It's just
right.
all overall positive for everyone. Like,
I remember every belt that I got, and it was a very exciting moment.
Yeah, I do too. It's easier for me to remember, so I remember them too. I'd have to remember a whole lot of. It doesn't take a lot of memories for me.
That's funny. Well, come on now. You got that blue and purple right out of the gate.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, I don't remember all my karate belts, I have to say.
When that guy gave you the blue and purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu,
yes.
Were you feeling a sense of pride then, or were you feeling a sense of confusion?
I honestly don't remember getting them, but I also remember how I felt all the time back then, where I was like, what is going on? I don't feel like I'm learning anything. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't feel like I can.
There you go, Dan. So that dovetails with what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You should feel like you're learning something.
Right.
And if you're someplace and you don't feel like you're learning anything, you should get the hell out of there and find a place where you can feel like you're learning something.
Right.
That's huge. And then that just aligns everything. So when I go into the academy, I can see my students and I can see what they need. And they go, this is what we need tonight, and we're going to work on this. So you're all going to leave here with being better than you were before you came in here. And if I keep doing that, everyone's going to get really, really good, Dan.
I know. And there's a very big downside to this.
What's that?
Which is, if I wait too much longer before I come back to the gym, everyone's going to be like really good at a lot of aspects of jiu-jitsu, and I'm just going to be getting really smashed.
Well, I don't think so. It's all relative. There are different players there too and things. You know what I mean? When you come back, we're going to get you a training partner that suits you and your partner, so that you're going to optimize your development. So you're going to probably come in and train with. You might train with the same person
maybe
for the whole class.
8-year-old.
And then we're going to train positionally, and then you're going to develop, and you're going to recognize your development, and you're going to go, finally, I'm getting frickin' good at jiu-jitsu. God damn it. And it's going to feel great. But that's an important thing for me to be zeroed in on that. I gave a class the other night, Dan, and what I thought before the class started was, if I only had one class to give these guys and they had to compete tomorrow, what would I teach them tonight to prepare them for tomorrow? And I think it was a really effective class. So it was essentially a lot of small things that when you're in somebody's close guard, how you can nullify the guy's offense. So you know how when you learn those small things, you can implement them almost immediately. They don't take a lot of repetition, you know, because you're not doing a lot of movements. It's more conceptual. Oh, if I keep his hips controlled, if I keep his hips between my two knees, he can't pivot out. It's very hard for him to sweep me and arm lock me. If I keep getting his foot off my hip, it's hard for him to do his offense. So small things like that,
Real simple.
real simple, and then you can internalize them almost immediately, and then you're way more effective than if you weren't doing those things, you know?
Yeah.
And then today, before I came in today, Dan, I was thinking, what are we going to talk about today? And I thought, if I had this was the only episode I had left for my students to hear, what would I tell them that would give them the most benefit? And I think this is the message. And the message is focus on your own development, recognize your own development, focus on your own self-esteem, which is based on, conscientious effort that you're putting in to develop yourself. Take responsibility for your development. Yeah.
It's almost like a light should go off if you start beating yourself up about, right? Like, that guy beat me, and you should be like, I'm headed in the wrong direction mentally. I'm not.
Well, I thought of a phrase, Dan. I don't know if I mentioned this on the podcast yet, because I was coaching somebody, and they went, "Yeah, I'm just being lazy. I'm not quick enough," and it was just the wrong tact. So the phrase I came up with is critique your technique, not yourself. So
That's important. Right?
yeah. So instead of looking for a technical solution, they were looking at some flaw that was inherent in them, which is a big distraction, and it's, it puts you on this emotional path, and we don't want to be emotional in our training really at all. That's not assisting us. That's not helping us. But I got to think, what technically do I need to do, or even what technically needs to be done to make it even more impersonal next time to get a better result? Not, I'm lazy. I just wasn't quick enough there, and all this self-critical dialogue that's not helping anybody.
Right. This is a huge statement, Brian, which we don't have time to go into, maybe no interest. All this applies outside jiu-jitsu too, right?
I totally think so.
Right?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like internalizing these things as opposed to objectively.
If you could do
through
that
it,
with
then-
your life, Dan, just focus on your self-esteem, be diligent, conscientious, and look to incrementally develop yourself every day, you'd have a pretty goddamn good life. I think you'd probably have about the best life you could have, right? Things would be
what
pretty
else could
good,
you
right?
do?
Yeah. What else can you do? That's the
Right.
most you can do anyways, right? And you don't have to be perfect every day, but if that was your general theme and what you were trying to do, that's probably a good place to be operating from.
And one more thing I thought was interesting. You, as a longtime instructor, didn't you say oddly enough, like you didn't until recently have in the forefront of your thoughts, like, I need to make sure all my students are recognizing their improvement, right? Because you're thinking of techniques, you're thinking of a million.
That
things,
idea just came
right?
to me maybe
Right.
a month or two ago, Dan. Yeah.
Right,
And it feels fundamentally important, which is fascinating, isn't it?
right. Because you'd think like that would come directly to mind, but it doesn't, right? You're
It
like,
doesn't.
I need to, yeah.
No. The other thing I noticed that some students, example, that guy was like saying, "Oh, I should have been faster, or I was lazy." And then sometimes a student will be making a technical mistake, and I'll go over there, and they'll go, no, what I was trying to do." So they're like, "You're on a, here's why I'm innocent." They start
Yeah.
pleading their case, and it's like, this isn't a case. You're doing something technically incorrect. I'm trying to give you the information that'll make you do it technically correct, and you're arguing with me, and we're wasting time, and I could be helping other students, and we could be helping you, but they perceive the technical feedback as a personal criticism, so they have to defend themselves,
Right.
and it becomes, not only does it waste a lot of time, it becomes this barrier where they can't receive any new information right now because they're putting up their defense. They're like, "Yeah, but I thought, and I was bridging, and then I was going to put my knees in there." And I'm like, "Yeah, what I'm telling you, you had your knee in there and you took it out. Don't take it out." And they're like, "But I had a bridge." No, you did.
Yeah.
I've been doing this for a while.
Just do
I'm
what
trying
I'm
to help
saying,
you
yeah.
out. Yeah. So I don't know what to do in those situations, Dan. Like when these people are so defensive, because one thing I could do is sit there and let them get it out
Right.
and like explain, and I go, "Oh, I see. You were trying to do this." And then, "Oh, okay. So you're perfectly innocent." And they'd be like, "Yes." And I go, "Okay,
All that said,
good. Now,
don't take your knee.
7 minutes later, now I'm going to tell you what you should do." But what I think I might do in the future, what do you think of this tactic? Is they start defending themselves. I'm going to stop you right there. I have a lot of respect for you. I know you were trying your best and you had good intentions. I have some good information for you that I can give to you right now. And maybe that'll assuage that defensiveness. What do you think?
Some version of that.
Yeah, because it's that same thing where they think they're losing status. they're unconsciously obsessed about status. So if you come over and tell me what I'm doing wrong, I'm losing status in your eyes, and I got to be, hey, wait a minute, don't take it away my status. Listen to my story first, and then you can give me the technical information.
And again, because people can forget your position, where you're like, I'm talking to 20 different people, like I want to
be as efficient as I can.
Past and telling you something, and they can be like, oh, no, here's not what happened, and you're like, I just had
I'm not picking on you.
5 other conversations just like this,
and
I'm walking around.
And what I want them to look at is when they hear me with that input, that is like a gold nugget for them. You know, they should be looking at it like they're getting treasure. They should want me to come over and
I think it is fair to say, right? Like, I don't know any instructor. You're never thinking like, oh boy, you suck. Like, you know what I mean? You're just looking at them, and I mean,
and I'm never picking on someone. I'm
never
going like
thousands of people come through.
I hate that Dan. When he comes in tonight, I'm just gonna shit all over everything he does.
I've seen you adopt that attitude, by the way, but that's a separate topic. But I've used the example of this, of my first time on a ski slope and being on the going up the thing and being like,
afraid to get off the chairlift.
I better get off the chairlift smoothly, like, and then sort of getting off all rickety and being like, is everyone laughing at me? And someone saying, or I don't remember, coming to the realization or something, it was like, the experienced skiers have seen 1,000 people just like you. They're not paying any attention to you. Do you know what I mean? Like, so I always say that for jiu-jitsu, like especially the newer people who are like, I'm screwing this up. I did it wrong. And it's like, whatever you're doing, I've seen it 1,000 times. It's not jumping out at me.
Right.
I'm not thinking like, oh, you're bad. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like you have no judgment of that. Like, it's like an experienced Olympic skier, someone just learning to ski. They're not like, oh my God, you're bad. They're like, you're, you know, like, you're new and you need to do this.
Like you said, you're probably like an NPC, a non-playing character to them. They don't even see you. You're just wallpaper as they go by.
They're not paying any attention. And if you're an instructor who has to pay, the ski instructor that has to pay attention, you're not like, oh wow, you had trouble getting off. They're like, yeah, I've seen a million times. Like, here's what you need to do. You need to make sure you get off with it. And so it's the same thing like in jiu-jitsu, obviously. Like, I think a lot of the newer people are like, I feel so stupid that I did this. And it's like, especially an instructor like you're like, I've seen whatever you're doing, I've seen it 1,000 times. Like, it's not, I'm not like, wow, you're bad. It's like, I'm just going to correct you, you know?
Yeah. All right, Dan. So to wrap it up, I'm probably not getting rid of stripes, especially for the white belts.
But the idea is there.
But I want them to take responsibility and recognize their own development and, not rely on me. And then I want people to compete as much as possible. And then that'll solve all their jiu-jitsu problems, I think. And if you guys like this episode, you got value out of it, which I'm sure you did, then please subscribe. Please tell other people about it. Hit the notifications bell on YouTube. And we'll see you next week.